everybody's so interested in the bond market right now. What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, Easter Sunday. Happy Easter, happy Passover to everybody. And here we are, and markets had a mildly down week. Volatility came in a little bit, but the big story of the week, I think, is the talk on the bond markets and the concern and the worry of China selling or liquidating their bonds, as they are our biggest debt holder. And the real answer there is, who gives a shit? Okay, let China go ahead and sell away, because all they're really doing, if they sell, is putting themselves in massive danger. Because again, one of the things when you hold the cards, in this case, we, the debtor, holds the cards, we can devalue. Okay, China is screwed. It's the old story: when you owe a bank 5,000, they own you. When you owe a bank 5 million, you own them. Well, we own China when it comes to that part of the equation, because at the end of the day, if China tries to get too aggressive in selling their treasuries and trying to collect on their debt, the U.S. could certainly devalue currency. And you've seen this over years anyways, with the fiat currency system being probably in the top criminal systems that there are. Fiat currency around the globe with no backing to any dollars, whether they be euro currency, or whether they be US dollars, or whether they be the Japanese yen. They're controlled by the central banks. All they are is a bunch of pile of shit debt. So again, I don't think that you should be concerned about the bond market. I think you should be more concerned about the economy itself. I think you should be more concerned about Trump trying to replace Chair Powell. Now, listen, let's be clear. I don't like Chair Powell. I think he's one of the worst. But he was somebody who, when he was brought in and appointed, he came from the industry. So I thought he would have an understanding and get away from those ridiculous policies that we've watched since Alan Greenspan. Okay, since Alan Greenspan, we've seen nothing but more bubble building and more manipulation of rates, instead of letting the free markets trade. However, I think President Trump is wrong in this case, trying to have Powell lower rates and now wanting to fire him because he's not going for it. I think in this case, they're both wrong. I think Powell is an idiot and has no business being the Fed chair, because he really is not doing his job. It has become more a political job. And I think that Trump is wrong, because I think that interest rates need to trade off of a free market. Okay, the demand for money for the average person is much higher than the 4.5% or 5% we're seeing now. I mean, right now the 10 years at 4.5%, and the only group that is benefiting from the interest rate markets right now is the banks, because all they've done is gotten an increase. And if you're not paying attention, you've seen the bank's earnings; they were pretty damn good. Okay, they missed out on their fixed income, but at the end of the day, their trading profits and their other profits were huge. So I think that, again, the Federal Reserve should be abolished. They are a cartel. But if they're going to be in business, then we need to let them act and not force them to cut rates. Cutting rates here would be just imbecilic, because it would spike inflation to ridiculous levels once again. And in fact, they did an interview on Friday, and the interviewer asked me about rates, about inflation. And first they said, which inflation number are you talking about? The stupid one that the government gives out, or what do I believe real inflation is? But the CPI, which is at about, let's say, 3%, I think it's going higher before it's going lower. Okay, and especially if you see a rate cut, I think it'll go even higher. And I think this is what Trump doesn't get. But at the end of the day, he can try to remove Powell. I'm not so sure how easy that can be. Again, I think they're both wrong in this case. I do happen to think Trump is doing what's best for America, or in his mind, what's best for America. I think Trump is doing what he thinks is, I think Powell is doing what he thinks is best for the left. So we'll see where it plays out here. But of course, as you know, on these very airwaves, we talked about COVID and about when it came over back in 2019. And I said then, and I'm saying now, and it's been more proven that was from a lab, and that was more of chemical warfare. And I think that is still the case. I think we're continuing to get more information. But the lab leak that was unveiled showed the true origin, which it did come from a lab in Wuhan. It was not a normal disease. It was a man-made disease that was, I think, pushed out globally. And we'll see how it all plays out and see how the information. But all we've seen is the pharmaceuticals continue with their vaccine mandates and pushing out these commercials. Again, I am sorry that I ever got vaccinated, but I did stop after one and the booster. I think it's all bullshit. That's my opinion. I think another big story this week is finally Congress is looking at Medicaid. Now, again, I'm not against Medicaid. Again, I'm not against those who need help and need some financial assistance from the government. But I am against the criminals that get to the money that does not include the people who actually need it. My problem is the doctors that are Medicaid doctors are bilking the system. That is again, I don't have a fact on that. That is my opinion, but it is my experience from using Medicare, okay, which is the retirement thing you get Medicare, and then if you want to buy supplements, and I think when you go to the doctor, I mean, they do things that you don't need, okay? And of course, you just, for example, going to the dermatologist, right? I mean, they're freezing and cutting and doing all these things that I don't think are necessary. I think this is, again, they're bilking the system because of what we've seen in the medical field. And of course, the medical field has been tortured by the insurance companies. And I'm not sure which came first. Is this the chicken or the egg? Did doctors first try to screw insurance companies, or did insurance companies first try to screw doctors? In the meantime, we, the American taxpayer, get screwed no matter what. So I would like to see not Medicaid eliminated, but I think there's too many people getting Medicaid that don't deserve it. Okay. And this goes to, many of our programs from disability to Social Security to others, money is flowing out and it's going to places that it shouldn't be going. Okay. I think that, we've heard Tulsi Gabbard talk about some of the things that were going on in the Biden administration, which was the domestic terrorism strategy. And again, I don't disagree with that. I think that the Biden administration was as bad as it gets. Again, in my opinion, I think that they did a horrible job. I think they created a lot of hatred. They created this mass amount of people coming in across the border illegally. They did a lot of things that were not good for America, all in the name of globalism and things like that. And I think that's a problem. We have of course, back to Fed Chair Powell talking about higher inflation. Well, of course, there's going to be higher inflation. Now, again, we've seen a lot of things come through over the last couple of weeks. One of the big things, and I think the biggest thing, is the smashing of the price of crude oil. If you believe that crude oil, as I do, is 80% of our economy, okay, I think that, again, that goes from lipstick to plastic bottles to filling your car to deliveries, all those things. The drop should help inflation. But as I've told you all along, there's going to be some pain in these markets before we get past. The question is, will you be patient enough? Because, of course, we continue to hear about the tariffs, and I'm a big fan of the tariffs. Now, again, you can say who's winning the tariff war. Well, I don't know if there's a real true winner here, but I think the last man standing, or the last person standing, or the last country standing, I believe, will be the United States. China, I don't think, can handle the trade war side because, of course, that is where their money comes from, and from exporting goods and producing cheap labor and cheap product, versus we could do our own thing and not need them. So I'm actually a big fan of tariffs. I think, again, yes, is it creating some pain right now? Yes, it is. But I think that if we suffer the pain today, I think we'll be much stronger in the future. And again, it is my goal and my wish that the United States comes back to the powerhouse instead of the weakness. I'm tired of supporting China and Ukraine and other places across the globe, and I think that we should be worried about taking care of our own people in this country. Okay. A federal judge temporarily blocks mass fringe Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Look, I think, in my opinion, most of these government agencies are not on our side, from the SEC to FINRA to any of the other organizations. I think they're all stealing money. Okay. Again, you have to ask yourself why anybody would get elected to a $200,000 a year job and spend $40 million of their own money to get it. That never made sense to me. I think that when you see career politicians, there's a reason they're career politicians. But I think that, again, I think that we have to cut back, and I think that's where the Doge Act comes in. I think that's where we need to cut all this spending. Again, the federal government was never meant to be the biggest employer in the world. Okay, so I think that if we can cut back on the spending, and those of you who are complaining about the Trump wanting to cut back on spending, I don't know, you should really think about it, because you're the one that pays for it. Remember, government makes nothing. Okay, government makes debt. Okay, government makes more taxes that you have to pay, even if you get a lower rate. And so again, I think you have to think about it. Okay, and I just think that, again, I think that when you look at the bigger picture, you know, from medical to insurance to all the things that we look at, things need to be adjusted, including Social Security, which we'll talk about in our commentary. But I think it was nice to see Mark Cuban come out in support of Trump and his prescription drug program. I think that is something that is extremely important. I mean, you know, a lot of people, obviously, if you have insurance, depending on your policy, your medicine is not that expensive. But of course, I think for the masses, I think we need to do something with the prescription drug market. I think we need to take away some of the power of some of the major pharmaceuticals that really hold us up. And again, really, at the end of the day, most of that money gets screwed. We get screwed as the American taxpayer, because we're subsidizing a lot of things. So I really think that it'd be great to see, as much as I don't care for Mark Cuban, it would be great to see him get involved and help Trump with this prescription drug problem and what they've talked about. And we'll see what happens. I mean, again, I think, as I said to you, and I'm going to say it one more time, there's going to be some pain. This market selling is not over with yet. Okay. The meteoric rise in gold kind of says part of that as well. But at the end of the day, I believe that if we can suffer through some pain, we will come out much stronger on the other end, and we will come out back in control versus being the weak sister. And again, that goes to deporting those who belong to be deported. And of course, we have some stupid ass ruling from a law from the 1800s that stopped some of the Venezuelans from being deported. You're not a citizen of this country. You don't belong here. I'm not paying for you. And I think you need to go. So I think like I said, I think there's some pain to be suffered. But if we can get through the pain and let things work and let the system work, I think we get back to be the strongest country in the world. That's the way I see it. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Easter Sunday, the 20th of April. We're going to step out of our break. We'll be back with our market report right after the break. What's up, kids? Happy Easter. Hope it's a great day. If you celebrate, happy Passover, if you celebrate that. And of course, you know, we have sponsors who sponsor the show. And of course, I want to shout them out. And again, they are brokerage partners for the most part. Look, I have other brokers, but I believe these are the best for everybody. But again, I only urge you to check them out. I'm not telling you to switch. Do as you feel is best for you. Remember, in life, you should always do, when you have the choice, you should do things that benefit you the most, okay, without hurting anybody else. So in the meantime, check them out. TRADIER Brokerage, again, $10 a month flat. I mean, uses our software. I don't know how you can beat it. Saves me over $100,000 a year. Capital Trading Group for your futures and commodities trading. ITM Trading for your gold and silver needs. And of course, I've been using them for over 20 years. And that goes back to Daniela Cambone. Our new sponsor, Joy of Mom, which is another friend of mine. Look, it's a great concept. She's done a great job with this and helping moms across the globe. But I'll have more information for that on you. And of course, SpookyExpress.com if you like to bet on a few games here and there or offshore. And of course, our high school program. Check it out. In the meantime, let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line with me, Todd Bubba Horwitz, and of course, our market report. Welcome back. It is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Todd Bubba Horwitz. It is Sunday, April the 20th, Easter Sunday. Happy Easter, everybody. Happy Passover. Well, markets had a, I don't know, moderate week with a short week, obviously, only open through Thursday. And interesting, I didn't realize that Globex wasn't going to be open on Friday, but it was not. But down a little bit. But volatility is still relatively high. It did come in a little bit on Thursday, but overall, I think that we'll see how it plays out. But as we look across the board, obviously we're still long the four major indices. We had a losing week last week. But again, I don't worry about the short-term details. I do believe we're going to get a pretty vicious rally, which will help us exit. I think there's one more of those rip your face off type of rallies coming. So we'll check it out. In the meantime, the dollar continues to get smushed. We would be long dollars if we traded them. We don't trade them. It has nothing to do with the dollar. It has everything to do with the cost to trade it. We are still short the euro currency, which is still rising. Bonds and notes bounced a little bit, but again, I think that you've seen the big drop in both, and again, we're still short. I would think that they're going to continue to go lower. I think interest rates are going to continue to go higher, which is direct correlation. Bitcoin still sitting at that $85,000 level, which is amazing. Gold exploded to once again another new high. Look, it's extremely overbought. I'm bullish gold overall. I love gold as a asset to hold, but at the end of the day, right here I'm short. I've been short. Okay, I think that it's dramatically overbought. I think you're going to see a massive meltdown. And again, I think when you look at the gold silver ratio, which is the biggest it's ever been, over 100 to 1, that tells me that I should be long silver and short gold. And as it turns out, I am long silver and short gold right now. And of course, platinum, which we don't trade, but we would be long. Copper making another run up. We are long. In the grain markets, we're long corn only, flat the other two, and corn has had a nice little move up. Cattle, once again, pushing up against all-time highs. Makes no sense to me, but I'm getting ready to sell it again. Again, I only traded. It's not something that we trade as a group. And hogs made that move we're looking for. Got up to 98 cents, which is huge from 88 cents where we bought it. So I'd be looking to take some profit in my hogs and looking to sell some cattle. And of course, natural gas is we're long and is still hovering around that bottom, but we did cover near the bottoms from our shorts. And crude oil whips around. I have no position right now, but I would expect to be a seller if it gets back to about 65. I do think it's going a lot lower. I think that's part of the big picture. But overall, again, I think markets are quiet. Volatility is way too high. I think you just have to be careful. You have to be patient. Look for high probability setups. That's where it comes down to. And that's really what we look for. But I do expect one more massive, 10, 12% rally like we saw a couple of weeks ago. I think it's going to happen. I think that will be the final end. And I do look for much lower prices after that. In the meantime, this is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Easter Sunday, April the 20th. Happy Easter, happy Passover. We're going to step out here for our final break and come back with my commentary right after the break. Well, kids, I'm not going to go through the whole speech with you, but just remind you of our sponsors. They're all on the website. All their websites on the side or on the bottom, and that's TRADIER Brokerage, Capital Trading Group, ITM Trading, Joy of Mom, SpookyExpress.com, and of course our high school program. Let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line with me, Todd Bubba Horwitz, and my commentary. Welcome back. It is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday, April the 20th. Happy Easter, everybody. In the meantime, we've got all kinds of things going on, from green energy to Social Security. And again, I think, first of all, let's talk about Social Security. The Social Security age should not be 65, 66, 67, 68. The retirement age now for anybody coming into the workforce should be 80. Okay. You cannot penalize people that were working when it was 65, but you need to make a change. The whole concept of the Ponzi scheme of Social Security was built on people dying before they were able to collect. Well, since now the average age is 78 or so versus 62 when Social Security was started, the numbers need to be raised. But of course, the politicians don't want to raise them because most voters are older and they don't want to see that. But again, I think you have to draw the line and say, if you're 25 years old or younger, your retirement age is 80. We already know that we're living longer. Okay. Through all of it. So the bottom line is that not only do you get screwed on Social Security, but you're in danger of never getting it unless you make changes. We cannot let the politicians take care of this. We have to vote them out, and we have to vote to change the age, because at the end of the day, there will not be enough money. because they are running a Ponzi scheme. Social Security is not an entitlement. Social Security is something you paid for yourself. And basically the government is borrowing money from you, and then they're creating new or bringing in new money to satisfy the old debt. That is a pure definition of a Ponzi scheme. Okay. So again, we need to get Social Security raised to the age of 80. And again, you can start wherever you want with people 30 and under, 25 and under, 20. And I don't really care where you start. You've got to start somewhere. And then to green energy, the bullshit, the story, and the stealing on the green energy bullshit. Look, I don't believe in climate change. If you do, I have no problem. But the simple solution to the environment and green energy is nuclear power. Enough with the bullshit, enough with the wind, enough with the solar, enough with all the other crap that is out there. You want to bring in green energy, you need to go to nuclear power. That's it. That settles it. That fixes everything. And it can be done at a reasonable cost. And we're ready to go and do it right now. That's the way I see it. This has been it. This is Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, April the 20th. We'll see you back here tomorrow with Bubba's Daily Update. In the meantime, have a great week. Have a great Easter. Happy Passover. And thank you all so much. I appreciate it.